Josh and I recorded like the pre-viewing part of the episode, which contains the introduction.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still going to say with us is this person and that person, right?
I'm going to have to introduce you and Andy because you weren't there when we started.
I'm going to have to say something twice to introduce myself, and I'm always horrible at that.
If you don't want to, I'll just say your names and we'll just keep on rolling.
No, I've got it.
You just bitched that you didn't have it. What happened?
Write it down. Write it down,
seconds?
Mike. Don't forget it.
You know what? That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I'm gonna do that. That way, at least I have something. Have a Fast and the Furious kind of intro.
Do you live your life a quarter mile at a time?
Fuck.
Is that it?
Not anymore.
It's literally like the only quote in that.
Maybe that just needs to be the cold open for the whole Fast and Furious episode, and then like Mike is not even in the preamble discussion, and then he just like shows back up for the post.
Still bitter about us stealing his intro. We tried. Is this a new game? Try to guess Mike's quotes.
Try to fuck up my intro. But no, I've got my intros, so you can just fuck right off and try to screw them up.
Now it's just going to be fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
You're cool.
I'm cool. Fuck you guys. Let's do this.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bright Guy and Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is Josh Zorch.
Mr. Movie Slut here.
Sarah Zorch.
I love how that's how you introduce yourself every time.
And Leslie Yoders.
Hi.
So we are trying to do another Never Seen That episode. If you've listened to past episodes before, you will probably know that we've teased this for a while between Josh and I. So we have agreed. If you missed it, Josh and Mike were recording their the horror movies.
Yeah, like
release.
upcoming horror season for 2019. Yeah.
And I wasn't on an episode, but as I edited, Josh had made the comment that if I decided to watch Zombieland, which I haven't seen, he would watch 2 Fast and the Furious movies. Which also, if you've paid attention to Josh, you know that is very much out of his wheelhouse, and he does not want anything to do with that franchise at all.
It's against my animal spirit.
So today we will be sitting down. We're going to watch the first Fast and Furious movie. Is the one that I've chosen for him to start with, and we will watch Zombieland. So we are going to record them back to back. We're going to do the pre-viewing part of it before today, and then we'll probably come back and do the post thoughts sometime later. We might get some different guests for that. We'll see how it turns out.
But you guys don't know that, is you're just listening through, and we could have 20 minutes in between these, or 6 months.
It'll be a surprise.
But to you, it'll just be 4 seconds.
So since we are starting with Fast and Furious, we are having Josh up first, so he is in the hot seat. So we're just going to start very general. What do you know about the Fast and Furious franchise?
I guess if I had to say flat out things I know, it would be limited to a few people who are in them, and generally vehicles are involved.
Okay, that's a very good working knowledge.
That's
of what's
literally
going on.
it. As far as the actual plots, I mean, it's my impression. So the first one came out like my junior or senior year of high school.
I should have looked up the year. It's early 2000s.
It's got to be like 2001, 2002.
I'll look it up.
Because I remember distinctly there was somebody who pulled a quote from it that was used in like the quotes page in our high school yearbook, our senior yearbook.
2001.
Okay.
And one, right? Okay, so that makes sense. So at the time, it looked, from what I remember, just generically like street racing culture and the deeper lives of people involved with it didn't really appeal to me. And as they went on a few years later, it seemed to evolve beyond just that premise and get quite more ridiculous, which pulled me out of interest even more.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vin Diesel, I know, is the cornerstone of this. Paul Walker, the first however many he was around for. There's a couple of people who I know are in certain chapters, but I couldn't tell you definitely which ones. Like I think Jordana Brewster shows up a few times.
Yep.
Michelle Rodriguez at some point.
Yes.
And I know some people who are in these like later ones the last couple of years, but the early volumes, I couldn't tell you anybody else.
Yeah, I think it definitely started with the height of street racing culture, and it is very far removed from that now.
Okay.
It's a very different animal. I mean, they still put that in there, I think, because they have to, but it's not it's not what they're about anymore. Leslie or Sarah, anything that you want to ask Josh before we do this?
I'm just super excited you're going to see this, and
I think Sarah's more excited
it's
than
going to
anybody
forever
for this.
change your life.
That doesn't mean for the better, but
Although, like I said before we started recording, you asked why had I liked this movie and owned it, and I was like, but it's peak Paul Walker, but I realized that's not going to mean so much to you.
I think the only other things I've seen Paul Walker in were She's All That and 8 Below.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and She Was All That would have been prior to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
8 Below, I think, was
I think it was
after this.
It's a couple years, just a few years after.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the actors and actresses that you named? Do you like everybody involved in the franchise?
I dig Michelle Rodriguez a lot. Have since the first Resident Evil movie. Vin Diesel. I guess if I had to be diplomatic or kind about it,
I mean, you don't have to.
I don't have any real opinion of him. I guess when it comes down to, I mean, if I wanted to be shitty just for the sake of it, I guess I could. But is there a reason to be? Not really.
Yeah.
I've never been a particular thing he's been in where I was like, oh, okay, a different side of Vin Diesel than my preconceived notion. That never happened.
Pacifier.
Somehow I didn't get to that one.
Literally what was in my head.
Yeah.
Didn't care to see that one.
I did see that one.
I used to own that one. I don't know if it's still currently in the boxes.
I'm happy for you.
I think that is one that didn't last one of the multiple DVD purges that we've had over the years.
We could always watch that one and just not record a podcast on it, just for the sake of Josh.
Yeah, I mean, everybody else, like I said, I know some more of the people who have come in the later chapters, but in these earlier ones, Jordana Brewster, other than like the Faculty, and I think she was maybe in one of the earlier Texas Chainsaw
Yes, she was.
relaunches, maybe the one with Jessica Biel. Or
No,
maybe the
she
other
was
one.
in the beginning.
She was in the
Texas
beginning, and
Chainsaw, the
Jessica Biel was
beginning.
in the one that
with-
was supposed to be just like a remake of the original.
Yes.
Okay.
The beginning was the one with Matt Bomer.
Yes. All right.
We own that one too.
Yeah, that's it. We got most of the Texas Chainsaw library. But sometimes
Just in case, Brian.
Vin
But you're
Diesel.
lacking in the Fast and Furious library.
Yeah, the Vin Diesel titles are hit or miss. Yeah, other than that, I mean, Paul Walker, I don't really have anything against him, but wasn't like a yay fan as an actor per se.
I know this stuff isn't really in your this franchise isn't really in your wheelhouse. Do you expect
right.
it? Like, where do your expectations lie with this one? Do you think you'll come out of it somewhat liking it, or you just expect it to be complete crap? And
I would say for this first one, especially given what I understand the basic premise to be and what the story kind of revolves around,
yeah,
I probably will come out of it like most, millennial Michael Bay movies,
okay,
which is okay. That exists.
yeah,
It can
Kind of
have some
indifferent.
entertainment value, but I'm not expecting to be hooked
yeah,
or
okay.
changed. I mean, if they figure out a way to get the hooks into me, all the better for them, I suppose.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna guess I can probably take this much more with a grain of salt, as opposed to like the last 3 or 4 that I've seen previews for.
yeah.
The last few years, they just seem to get bigger in scope and scale and
Yes.
ridiculousness.
I feel like they're
I'm expecting this to be a little more grounded.
they're partially on par. I feel like with like Mission Impossible,
Okay.
but where Mission Impossible stunts are pretty much real, these are not.
Okay.
It
So they're
takes
just-
ridiculous to a new level. I
they're
feel like
Constructing a ridiculous scenario and something to be pulled off just for the sake of showing you
Yeah.
something over the top, as opposed to Mission Impossible. Like,
and I think
we
they-
figured out how to do that for real.
Yeah, and in 5, I think they did that. I think Fast and Furious 5 is when they really started to lean into that, and then they realized that movie made a shit ton of money, so we have to up the ante for the next one, and so
Okay.
on. And now we're on 8,
Okay.
9 if you count Hobbs and Shaw,
All right.
and they
all right.
get increasingly more ridiculous as you go down. I mean, my grand plan for this is to get you to watch at least 4.
Okay.
So we have to trade off. Well, I guess I get 2 for 1, but then
This first round, yes.
yeah, we have to trade off a couple other movies. I want it. I think 4 would give you a nice round of the franchise, and I think that would include at least. We'll start with this one, and then I think 4, 5, and 6 are the better ones to watch. I think that's a solid trilogy. If we get any more after that, I think it's just kind of gravy. But they're some of my lesser favorites if we get to the other ones.
Point taken.
Last question I think I have. How do you feel about Point Break?
The original?
Yeah.
Because I didn't see the remake.
Okay. Well, yeah, the Keanu Reeves Point Break.
I'd
You
say I generally
enjoy that
have
movie?
positive feelings of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities, I think, in this movie. To
Interesting.
Point Break.
Okay.
Yeah, I would second that.
But with zero Keanu or
Yes. Yeah.
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze, yeah. So there's zero Keanu or Swayze.
Yeah.
I mean, that already takes this down a
Vin Diesel
little
is
bit.
the Swayze of this movie.
Although I kind of want to see Keanu in the Fast and the Furious. Like, come on,
There's still time.
that would
They're
be
gonna
fun.
make like
Only-
12 of them.
We
Only
want to
if
see
he fights a
him
car.
in everything.
He's John Wick. He would win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you watch John Wick, he does fight with cars, so that's close.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got to prep. You guys got anything else for Josh? Anything we want to grill him on before we start this?
No, I'm just excited because I couldn't remember a couple of the minor characters that are in this, and I know there's at least one that he should recognize the actor, and
Okay.
So I'll be excited when you see that.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess that's another thing is I could probably, not to say I could not confidently say I have never looked at the IMDb pages for any of these.
Yeah.
Probably few and far between ever. But if I ever did, I guarantee I don't remember anybody.
Yeah.
Other, like I said, other than the people whose faces I've seen come and go in previews over the years.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, there's might be a few that do pop up, but I have no preconceived
There's one that
understanding of any of them.
there's one that I know you will be like, that guy.
Will I feel bad for that guy being in this?
I don't think so.
This is a low point for that person's career.
I mean, it depends. Like maybe if they already had like a good career and this was, they were like, maybe not in much along the way, and then they popped back up in this,
Yeah.
is different than, well, this is one of their earlier films and now they're in a better position. But I guess I'll wait and see.
You'll just wait and see.
So,
Yeah.
just around the horn, Sarah, when was the last time you watched this movie?
I know I have seen it since it came out, but honestly, I couldn't tell you the last time I've watched it. It's probably been at least 5 years, if
Okay.
not 10.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I've watched it since we've been together. If I did, obviously he wanted nothing to do with it.
I was not in the room.
But so that's 7 years. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's probably more towards the 7 to 10 year mark for me.
How do you think it's going to hold up?
I'm a little nervous. The peak Paul Walker will hold up, but we'll see.
Leslie, same question.
Probably since it came out on DVD. I probably bought it and then haven't really watched
So
it.
you didn't
ever
watch it in
since
the
then.
theater?
No, I saw it in the theater too.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like the last time that I watched it would have been like right after I bought it, probably.
Okay.
But I had a big Vin Diesel obsession though, so like big Vin Diesel obsession.
I can respect that.
Yeah. So I remember loving this movie.
I remember loving this movie too, so I'm a little
Yeah, but I'm
little
not
afraid.
sure if I actually did or if I just loved Vin Diesel. So
We'll find out.
like I printed out a picture of him and put it on my trumpet case and carried it around at band. And I wrote his name like Vin Diesel. I still have it. I'm gonna
Because
have
when
to
I
get a
think
picture of it.
Vin Diesel, I think music composition.
Heck yeah.
I know that Paul Walker was in my binder compilations that I would make. You know, you'd get the binder every year for school that had the clear plastic on the fronts, and then I would make, you know, collages
Yeah.
for them. So I know that he was on multiple collages.
I did not make collages.
You missed out.
There's always time, Josh. After this movie.
You're gonna have a Vin Diesel collage.
I'm going to make you collages for your cube.
Just take notebooks that I don't need or use to work every day.
All right. I think it's about time we do this shit.
Let's dive in.
We will
All right.
reconvene. You may hear different people whenever we come back to this. We're undecided if we're doing the second half after this. So you may or may not hear the 4 of us, or you may hear 4 different people. If it's different people, just hang in there. It'll be fine.
It will be, because as soon as we're done talking, those new people will be here in about 10 seconds.
Surprise. All right, so we are back with our post-movie part of the episode. This time we've subbed out Sarah and Leslie for Andy Stolz
What's up, podcast people?
and Mike Bradley.
I'm the buster that will keep you out of handcuffs.
It's fitting.
Because somebody fucking took the line I was going to use. But we'll let that
it was
go.
an easy guess. So when we recorded the pre-movie viewing part, I don't think I did a good enough job of setting up how this works. So just in case you haven't listened to any of our Never Seen That episodes before, the typical structure we try to do is that once we have a movie picked out that someone hasn't seen, we'll try to record before watching it, try to see what they know before going in, take a break to watch the movie, and then we'll come back and dig into all the post-movie thoughts that said person will have. We did this one a bit differently in that we recorded a pre-movie discussion a week or two ago, and we're finally now sitting down to do post-movie thoughts. Hopefully it's still a little bit fresh, at least for Josh and I, since we were there on the day recording and watching. In the case of Andy and Mike, hopefully you guys remember these movies, or this movie in particular, if you haven't watched it anytime recently. So just to reiterate, we are talking about the very first Fast and Furious movie. And for this episode, Josh is in the hot seat. So I think we're all dying to know, what did you think of the very first Fast and Furious movie?
All right, so I will have to admit that this particular one, not having seen any others yet, was not anywhere as terrible as I thought it would have been. There was a lot that wouldn't have hooked me on its own, per se. But just as a movie that somebody made, could have been far worse, I'll admit.
I think the franchise itself just gets a bad rep, I think, for how outlandish and crazy it is now. But going back and watching the first one is fairly grounded, like where it starts.
Okay.
And I think, like before we recorded, the one question I had for you was that basically asking what you thought of Point Break.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of parallels, obviously, as that went along. The one, like, to the point where I was expecting, like, in that last scene, I was almost expecting, like, the cops to come around the corner and for Paul Walker to, like, put his car in reverse and hold the cops off, and for them to say, "Would you let him get away?" No, I'm
Yeah, it's
not.
basically-
And then, yeah, no, I'm not letting him get away. And then he wouldn't make the train. The train would just plow right through the car, and Vin Diesel's dead. Yeah, so you pick up on the parallels on that pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's Point Break with cars. That's basically what the first Fast and Furious movie is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for me, I'm honestly glad that there's not a ton of screen time, to be honest, that's really devoted as deep as I thought they would be on just the characters talking about cars. Like, the first street race scene is a lot of, like, it reminded me of, like, anytime I go by any event that's like a classic car show or just a gathering of, like, every now and then you do kind of see, like, that thing where it's like a gathering of, like, young men where they're just standing around looking at each other's cars. Like, I have the same reaction, which is I can't imagine the diversity of conversation occurring, where you just go from, like, one car to the next with the hood popped up. You're like, oh yeah, so you have an engine too, huh?
You can tell we're all not car guys here.
I don't get
As
it.
somebody who worked in the automotive industry selling auto parts for a long time, I would actually understand most of it, and I know what they're talking about most of the time.
Correction, we have one car guy here.
I would still say that Josh is fairly correct, but I'd say that's also true of a lot of groups. Whereas, like, we may talk about, like, movies in that same context, where they just look at us and think we're just talking about dumb movies the whole time.
Yeah, fair. I mean, like, if even if I try to take, any side of judgment out of it, there's only so much that, like, beyond a couple of lines of dialogue of exchange, I'm going to lose interest in what they're saying very, very quickly.
Right.
Like, the more they talk about and maybe this is just my perception, I get the feeling that even though some people might be more mechanically inclined and can have, you know, an intelligent conversation about, you know, the performance of machines and all that stuff, once you get so far into talking about, you know, bypassing this and that to put, you know, nitrous oxide tanks in and to do X, Y, and Z, it felt to me like they definitely had like a technical consultant on set, and they just loved to pepper that script up with
Well,
as
you know,
much
what-
talk
they-
of that
they-
stuff as they possibly could.
They absolutely did, but it was all very vanilla talk. That would be like somebody coming up to me and Brian and being like, Boba Fett, huh? That's the equivalent of like the automotive depth and knowledge that's portrayed in these movies. It's not.
All right, fair enough.
What they're talking about is very vanilla. It's very. It sounds complicated to somebody who doesn't know. Like somebody who had never seen Star Wars, but look at somebody who walks up to Brian and I that says, "Hey, Boba Fett." And they'd be like, "What the fuck is a Boba Fett?" And they would have no idea what's going on with that. Same thing with the cars. They're talking about it, like it's not necessarily simple, but it's all like boring. They didn't do a terrible amount of research into it, kind of stuff that they say.
I think
Okay.
Josh, it reminds me of kind of like on The Flash when they have to solve a problem, and then Caitlin and Cisco just go off in their science gobbledygook, and you're just like, "Yep, all right, I buy it. Sure, yep, you know what you're
Yeah.
talking about." It's one of
Yeah,
those.
that's a really
They
good parallel.
They just have to say things to make it seem like they are in the know.
Yeah, that's fair. So let me take the pulse from Mike and Andy. When, relatively speaking, like how long ago do you think the last time you watched this movie was? Like 5 years, 15 years?
5.
Probably 10 to 15 range.
Okay. And have you both sort of kept going with this franchise up to the present? Have you stuck with it?
I think I made it to Fast 5 and stopped there.
I haven't watched Hobbs and Shaw yet, but I've seen all the rest.
Okay. And how do I want to say this? I don't necessarily want to ask if like you feel the movie still holds up, because it like I said, it wasn't as terrible and didn't date itself as badly as I thought it could have, you know, coming from 2001, I think.
Yeah.
A car race is a car race.
Yeah, and I think what I was happy to see is that there wasn't the story surrounded people who are into cars, and that's what was happening with races and these rivalries and whatnot. But I was really expecting like every single story beat and element and every like motivation behind everybody to be that.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a breath of fresh air that there were these sort of side stories and other things happening.
It may not be a very deep character-driven franchise, but they try to give you time with the characters. That is what the franchise tries to do. Now, I mean, it goes hand in hand with the spectacle of, like, let's see how crazy shit can get. But they still try to underline all that stuff with character beats and character moments. So if you're going into it just expecting to see fast cars drive really fast, it's a small part, I think, of what the movies are.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they went from having like the organized crime empires that had people who enjoyed street racing as part of them, that weren't necessarily built on street racing, but that was part of it. That was part of their culture. To now, it's just international crime and see what we can blow up and what kind of crazy stunts we can pull off on camera. And it even looks like in Hobbs and Shaw, even though I haven't seen it, that there's a Superman. So they kind of have gotten more ridiculous over the years. So saying this is more grounded, absolutely.
And I will say too, I think the more recent ones are getting away from the character part of these movies. I think into 8, 7 I think did pretty good. 7 was the last one with Paul Walker, and I thought they did a pretty good job focusing on his character for a lot of that movie, which they needed to do. Um, 8 to me, I feel like is pretty forgettable. I think I've only seen that one once. But nothing there really struck me as like, okay, I still feel invested with this. Now it's the point where I'm just kind of seeing them because I've made it this far. But
They're still fun to watch, even if it's not quality cinema.
Right, yeah. There's
it
a
still
lot
has
worse
scenes that
worse things to see. I agree, and I think I want to show Josh if we get that far, but the prime of the franchise, which is I think 4, 5, and 6 for me, I think is a good meaty trilogy, which is still pretty good. Anything after that would sort of be gravy for him if he wanted to sit down and watch more.
Well, I feel like 3's a decent standalone. You don't need to see any of the others to deal with 3 because it's so far separated.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I feel like it's a decent standalone movie, kind of in the same breath as the first one.
And since the timeline for these movies are all fucked up, saving 3 until pretty much the last one would fit with what they kind of try to do.
Yeah.
It's weird, Josh. I don't know, since you stayed away from it, the timeline for the movies is it technically goes 1, 2. They made 3, and I don't think they knew where they were going to go after 3. And then like everybody decided to come back and start making these movies again. So then they made 4, 5, and 6. But it features a character in 4, 5, and 6 that dies in 3. And everyone gets confused when they see those movies after watching 3. So technically 3 takes place right around the time of 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and just for you, leaving it out of the mix, you're not going to get confused. You don't have to worry about it. That's not going to be a problem.
I mean, talking about like how you get from A to B, given what I saw in this, and then what my impression is from seeing previews of these, last 4 or 5 chapters, I'm like, how do you get from these people who are like low-level, heisty criminals and street people to like what it looks like international intergovernmental agencies and
you're not meant to ask
groups
those
and whatnot,
kinds of questions as to why the hell this goes that far.
How is that going to be believable at all?
I was going to say, the comparison I'll make is how do you get Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck on an asteroid that's going to save the planet in Armageddon?
Right. That's a similar point to make. They would
Alright.
teach astronauts how to
certain
drill. They would not send
Yeah.
fucking drillers, like oil drillers, to the fucking asteroid. They would never do that.
There's a certain skill set that these characters have that we are sort of kind of familiar with, but they are exponentially better apparently at what they do than what we know of. So they are now, the ones to go to when shit happens.
Sure.
There are probably better. I get it. There are probably better people to call for whenever there are issues. But just for the sake of continuing movies, it's always going to be this crew.
Yeah, it goes
Gotcha.
from having Dom being like he's a pretty good street racer to being he's the best driver in the world.
Meanwhile, they could have had a movie of that made him race to be the best driver in the world. I'd watch that.
Yeah, they could have did something there to connect, and it would have been.
Be
just
careful
fine.
what you wish for. Someone's going to hear that and they're going to make that movie.
Oh, no, I'm waiting for Fast and Furious 12 when they're on the moon.
Yeah, they jump into space off of like the building in Dubai or something because that's possible.
Put a rocket on the back of that car and just launch it.
Yeah, and he can totally drive in space too because he knows how it works.
Racing moon buggies around on the lunar surface.
Well, that's why I think I talked about. I can't remember if we talked about when we were recording or before or after, but I had just recently seen Ad Astra, which has a sequence on the moon of like sort of a race chase thing, and I'm like, that's Fast and Furious to me. That's what I'm waiting to see. Just give me some cars or moon buggies on the moon with that, I'm in.
I will say, as one specific call out that I haven't been able to shake is sort of the closing of Act 3 of this movie, just from a pacing standpoint, really confused me because the main heist they're trying to pull off fails and one guy gets really badly injured. Vin Diesel comes to understand that Paul Walker is a cop. They both disappear. They both go their separate ways. And it seems like later that same day, Paul Walker then goes straight back to Vin Diesel's house to confront him because he still wants to put him under arrest. But at the very least, like, not allow him to go do what he is about to go do, which is try to protect the one person on his crew from the really otherwise unnecessary, like, Asian criminals. There's no reason you actually need those people in that movie at all.
Well, they're the third party that brings the other two together.
Sort of, but I feel like you could if the main conflict is between Paul Walker as the law enforcement agent and trying to unearth and find the identity of the criminals. He happens to fall in with the group that it ultimately ends up being as his way to get into that culture to find the real people.
Yeah.
But what I found really strange was in the middle of this argument in his driveway that they're having, it's like, no, you need to let me out of here. You're gonna have to, whatever, basically the idea is you're gonna have to shoot me because I'm just gonna call him Mousy. I don't remember what the dude's name is. He reminds me, Jesse. Okay, the whole time he just reminded first of all, he reminded me. I think I called him Mousy while we were watching.
Yes, you did.
And
yes.
he reminded me of Mouse from Matrix.
Matrix, yep.
So the whole time I'm like, it's Mousy Mouse guy, whatever. And then immediately out of nowhere, right up to them, to their feet, is delivered Mouse. He just drives up like, we need to go find him. You need to let me out of here. You're going to have to shoot me because I got to go protect my friend from the mad Asian guy who's, because he didn't get a car. So of course someone is murderous because they didn't get a vehicle right away, which, okay, sure. And then he just shows up he shows up there only so that he can be killed there.
Yes.
So that they don't have to go do anything else. So they can tick off the box of a confrontation between Paul Walker and Vin Diesel and have Vin Diesel's motivation to then go back after the Asian guys because his friend is killed, just to knock those both out in one scene. But it's, in my opinion, like, it threw off what was happening entirely. Like, we're having this whole argument about, you need to let me out, I need to go find him. Oh, there he is. He came right to us. Okay. I guess that problem's solved.
Conveniently, yes.
And now he's being shot to death right in front of us.
Yeah, see, I think that's more that, like, if they want to keep Paul Walker and Vin Diesel in the movie together and somehow end up by, friends at the end, the confrontation in the driveway with just the two of them, they were not going to part and leave each other alone. So now that they introduced the Asian gang to kill Jesse, and then they got to worry about them. That's them joining forces to then, I don't know, like it. So they're not killing each other. They are now directing that at the third party. So then by the end of the movie, they can sort of come out of it a little bit nicer with each other. I don't know.
Sure,
that's my reason.
I just for some reason, like, the composition of that whole sequence, I found really strange, and just even though like the leader of the Asian group already, they give you the impression like he's a prick, but really to the nth degree of, you lost a race and you didn't give me your car, so I will machine gun you to death down in your front yard. Felt a little extreme.
Well, I think there was a little bit more to Neck, because like prior to the big race where he won the car, he had his house raided by the FBI. So he is under the impression that Dom and them ratted him out.
Yeah, but I mean, at least to me, it really came across more like they were going after the kid because of the car. He just happened to be at Vin Diesel's where they found him.
See, I think it's a little bit of both.
They took shots at Vin Diesel as well. If you remember, Vin Diesel had to scramble.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do a
bullets,
drive-by with Uzis on motorcycles, are you really just going to try to get your target, or maybe get any of the witnesses that are standing around too?
I feel like it turns things. There is an important step for Brian to be able to set aside the need to go after Dom to chase down a murderer, as opposed to somebody who is a high-end robbery. But Dom's not committing murder. Whereas this was a murder that just happened actively in front of his eyes, and it gives him the excuse to say, what am I supposed to do? It gives him an excuse as a cop to drop the pursuit of Dom and actively go to pursue the person who just committed murder on his watch.
It's the clear and present danger.
That I can give you. I think it was just the way that it was executed. Like I think you could still hit those major beats and get to that point. It's just the way that they constructed that scene in particular, the way it came off, just felt very strange to me. That's all.
I do want to point out too. I think when we were watching, going back to Mousy, that every time he is on screen, Josh is going, "This guy's shifty. I don't know if I like this Mousy kid. There's something off."
Oh, you're gonna bring this up. Thanks.
Yeah. And halfway through the movie, and then Jesse explains why he is kind of shifty, that he has ADD. And suddenly we're like, Josh, how bad do you feel that you're picking on the kid with the disability?
Yeah. Thanks to Leslie for pointing that out. That was real classy of her.
She's not wrong.
Andy, I want to get you in. Anything you want to direct for Josh? Any questions for the movie since he's on the hot seat?
Josh, have you seen the movie Gone in 60 Seconds?
Yes, but it's been a very long time.
Okay. I think these movies came out relatively close in time to each other,
I
and
wanna
they
say
were
you're
sort
right,
of both like the action car-oriented movies and whatnot.
Right.
Now that you have seen both, which one did you prefer?
Good, fair question. Honestly, I would have to go back and watch Gone in 60 Seconds because it's been probably over 10 years at least since the one time I saw it.
For the record, Gone in 60 Seconds was the year prior, the year 2000.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I might have saw that in college or shortly after, but I know I only saw it once. I mean, my initial first reaction is it's apples and oranges because Nicolas Cage always wins.
Gone in 60 Seconds is my choice, 100%, no question.
I had a third
So,
option that I was.
I'd have to
too,
revisit it, but I'd be willing to revisit it because I don't remember having a bad impression of that movie. Like, oh, that was such a piece of dog shit. I'll never see that again. So I would watch it
Yeah.
again and come back with an answer later.
Yeah, I'm actually 100% with Mike. I would much rather watch Gone in 60 Seconds than I would The Fast and the Furious. Not that The Fast and the Furious is a bad movie. It's
Not
my
there's
favorite.
anything wrong with that.
Right? No, yeah, it's my favorite of the franchise. But
Wait,
although
backtrack.
I-
The very first Fast and Furious movie is the favorite of the franchise for you? Is that what you were saying?
well, once again,
You're saying the first Fast and the Furious movie is your favorite Fast and Furious movie?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the movie you were going to throw in, Brian? You said there was a third you wanted to throw in.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Need for Speed, if anybody has seen Need for Speed.
The
Aaron
Michael
Paul.
Keaton, Aaron Paul one. I just watched that earlier. I think like earlier this year or sometime last year. The only saving graces for that for me as a viewer was Aaron Paul because I like him so much from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the movie itself to me was like less than one-dimensional.
Yeah, I get that.
It seemed very forgettable to me. Like,
Did you watch
I feel
it?
like I can quote Need for Speed. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like I can quote and remember stuff from the Fast and the Furious, and from Gone in 60 Seconds, I can quote to like for a long time. But
Okay.
the only thing I remember from Need for Speed is that Aaron Paul is in it.
Yeah, that's,
See, I think
You
I don't know.
know?
There's something about Need for Speed for me. I think they try to do a lot of the car stuff practically, which, and maybe it's been a while since I've seen Gone in 60 Seconds, but Fast and Furious I don't think does very many practical car stunts and driving like at least Need for Speed does. So I think that part of it stands out for me. I think the story and characters for Need for Speed are forgettable, but the car action and stuff in Need for Speed is what I think I remember and enjoy a lot.
Gone in 60 Seconds was less car stunts. There's one really long car chase at the end of the movie,
Right.
and the rest of it is just like them stealing cars. There's not a whole lot of like racing around or dealing with this, that, and the other. But that last car chase sequence is mostly practical. I think the only thing they didn't do practically there's the big jump that
Yeah.
he goes through at one point, because that would just be ridiculous. But to me, that movie is just so much fun to watch every time. Whereas Fast and the Furious isn't as fun as that for me.
Just the first one, or are you talking as a franchise?
I'd rather watch Gone in 60 Seconds than any of the like Fast and Furious franchise.
Gotcha. Okay.
But again, that's one of my favorite movies too. Like it would be on
Yeah.
a long list of favorites, and none of the Fast and the Furious movies make that list.
Fair enough.
If we're talking about car movies that also may include Nicolas Cage, I don't even remember if it's like really heavily dependent on like big car chases. It's just such a ridiculous fun movie. Drive Angry.
Actually, a very good movie.
Yes.
I didn't think I was going to like that movie, but it's actually pretty solid.
Yeah, it actually is.
And just because Nick Cage, I mean,
And I think Amber Heard
I
the
think
daughter
so.
character?
Yeah.
So it was like just before, like a year or two, I think, before she started to get a lot of like, name recognition for herself. But yeah, it's actually not too bad.
Anything else for Fast and Furious?
Yes, I have a question for all of you. If you could have any car from the Fast and the Furious,
Oh,
which
shit.
would it be?
The Charger. No question.
See, I don't know.
The black Charger at the end with Vin Diesel's
Yeah, if we're talking are we talking the whole series, or are we just talking the first movie?
first movie.
Yeah,
First
the
movie.
Charger.
Okay. Trying to think of, because I tried to make some of these cars in GTA when we play online. So I think Brian's car, the green one that he has,
It's an
that
Eclipse.
gets blown up. Yeah, I did make that one, so I'm gonna go with that one.
I don't think I have an answer. I have no idea. I probably wouldn't care. I'd probably want one that has like really good mileage and really low emissions.
I
don't.
you would go for the motorcycle?
No, because I'll kill myself on a motorcycle.
Oh.
Speaking of which, like I'll as connective tissue to something else that listeners will have heard recently. There's a scene in the first Zombieland where Jesse Eisenberg's character tries to leave where he is on a motorcycle and promptly within 12 feet falls over and crashes into big hedges and just hurt. Like that would be me
Fair enough.
on a motorcycle. So
Andy, do you have a choice?
I would agree with Mike. Definitely the Charger. By far.
I expect to see both of you driving that in GTA the next time we play.
I don't have
Is
any
there one
money.
in there?
You can find it, obviously not called the Charger, but you can find cars that look pretty similar, and you can make it black and get the engine out the hood and stuff.
They cost a ridiculous amount of money. I have no money in that game.
Did you spend all your $1 million already?
Well, I bought properties, I bought guns, I bought all kinds of shit like that, but I just took the free cars they gave me. I didn't go and
I don't
search
think
the store.
that one's
I have
too
like
expensive.
I have
but
like
we can-
400,000 right now is about what I have.
You may have enough to get the car. I don't know about the upgrades, but we can talk. I don't remember the price of the stuff, but we
Oh
can
shit, there are
figure that out.
upgrades?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man.
So Josh, if we presumably get through, well, I guess you owe us another Fast and Furious, right? So we have at least one more to go
yeah, you get one more so far.
to. Okay, so we'll have to plan that for the next time, and then figure out. Like I said, I at least want to get you through 4 of them. I think would be a nice range
Okay.
for you. So you gave us 2 for the price of 1.
Yes.
So we'll try to match up 2 other movies between you and I to get through 4 of them.
I'm open
Two
whenever
Okay.
you want to do the
price
Fan
of
4
one.
stick. Just let me know. I'd love to get that done because I still haven't watched it. I'm
I
saving
know
it.
we've been talking about that for like 3 years now.
Yeah, we need to get on that.
I
You
know.
and Romano each.
Well, I think the issue is that like there's more than just one person that we want to watch it with. Like Bradley, Romano, I don't remember if anybody else needs to see it. Josh needs to see it, right?
I've seen it.
Okay.
I saw it once.
Andy, you and I did the review, right? So we did it.
Oh yeah.
We watched it, yeah.
So just find out
Fucking
from
A.
Mike when he's available. You tell me when the 2 of you can get together. I'll do it. Fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll have to that would be a good night to if we can schedule something for all of us together again at some point to record something. That would be a good one to do.
Yeah.
All right, so you at least have one other Fast and Furious to look forward to for Josh. All the other never seen that's will be to be determined. We'll try to keep you posted whenever we figure those out. And that's it for this one, I think. if you enjoyed the episode and the show, please stop by iTunes. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review there. Be sure to share, subscribe, favorite the show. You can actually now find us on Spotify, so feel free to check us out there. You can search for us on Facebook, search Bry Guy and Super Friends, or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions on there. You can try to email us, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. Send it. I probably won't check it. If you sent anything the last year, it's probably still sitting in there. You can tweet us at BGSuperFriends on Twitter. Those we'll see. And on behalf of Andy, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.